Hello friends, the article which we are analyzing today is published on Hindu July 13th. The title of the article is The Sum and Substance of EU's China Dilemma. The author of this article is Mr. Vijay Gokhale. Vijay Gokhale is a former Foreign Secretary of India and former ambassador to Germany and to China. So this article is written in the context of European Union and China relationship, and how this relationship was, and what are the changes happening, and what will be the situation after post COVID situation uh, will be projected, means projected relationship between EU and China post COVID, and in that situation what are the opportunity is coming for India. So we see that European Union and China has a in between them a major relationship, and jointly they account for nearly 30% of global GDP in triple P term, and China is the biggest market for European companies. So if you see the perspective from European Union side, how they perceive the China, so there are three things coming out. uh, they treat China as a cooperative partner. They consider China as a economic competitor also, and they consider China as a rival also, of systemic rival, which is promoting alternate model of governance. So there are three way EU consider China. So it consider China as a partner in economic term, and it also consider China as a competitor, and it also consider China as a rival, because the model which China propagate or is having is contrary to what EU subscribe to, particularly political model. So in cooperation, in cooperative partner, being China being a cooperative partner, we see that European Union and China has an extensive relationship. China provide a biggest market for European company, and there are so many high-tech company of European Union are operating in China. We can see the case of Europe, Germany. Germany was able to enhance its industrial value by 37% with the cooperation of China, because the kind of market and kind of global supply chain which China provide, with that Germany was able to enhance its industrial value by 37%, and China provide a biggest market also for European company. So this way, in on economic front, we can see that European Union and China has extensive dealing with each other and mutual dependency. But of late, China is emerging as a competitor also, because in high technology area we see that China is acquiring high technology companies, and China is also acquiring key ports like one which it acquired in Greece. So this is raising the flag in European Union, because Chinese economic policy is governed by its strategic objective. So we see that how China is undermining European Union in many ways. Like China is trying to cultivate a sub-constituency of Europe, means European Union is a part of gathering of many European countries. So in that gathering, a sub-constituency China is trying to cultivate, which is detrimental to European Union. And we see that how PLA is operating in Baltic Sea with Russia doing exercises. And in this COVID-19 situation, we also see that China has conducted disinformation propaganda campaign to undermine European government. And China is also engaging in stealing of intellectual property right of European companies. So all these activity not only happening in economic domain, but it has an implication on strategic and financial side also. So the overall effect of China's activity are that it is undermining the effort of European Union in terms of connectivity, regulatory framework and building of a single European entity. So this way we see that Chinese involvement, particularly stealing in IPR, acquisition of high-tech technologies and investing in key port, acquiring ports. This way somehow it is undermining the long effort of European Union to build a regulatory framework, connectivity and a single market for European Union. So this is the one area where European Union consider China as a competitor. And the third thing is related to systemic rival, being China being a systemic rival which is promoting alternate model of governance. We are all aware the kind of governance China is having. China is not a democratic country, and the kind of polity China subscribe to and promote is also not helpful to European Union model of governance, because this is happening because China has grown economically and with that it has got the political influence, and using that China is engaging in many activity which is detrimental to European Union. So in that situation, author is saying what will be the relationship post COVID between EU and China. So author is saying that EU will try to stop over reliance on single market of China. It will try to diversify, because there are many factors for this, because we see that the kind of relationship uh, is going on between US and China. So that is deteriorating day by day, and we also see that US is retreating from global leadership role. In that situation, what EU will do, EU will try to balance economic codependency and co-prosperity with China, keeping Chinese strategic intention and effort of military supremacy and its bearing on European security. So European Union, keeping its security into mind, will try to balance the dependency which they have with China, and they will also take into account the Chinese strategic intention and the kind of effort it is making for military supremacy, because the Chinese aggression in India, in South China Sea and in many other places is is being watched by European Union. So in that condition, what are the opportunity is opening for India? So what author is suggesting that this opportunity is of relationship between EU and China post-COVID situation is an opportunity for India, because this is a good favorable political condition for India. India can have agreement and collaboration and investment from European Union, and India can develop a partnership with European Union for economic and strategic reason. So this way we see that there is a decline, there is a chance of decline of EU China relationship post-COVID situation, in post-COVID situation, and in that will open opportunity for India to make use of that opportunity for strengthening its relationship with European Union. So this concludes my first analysis of the article. The second article which I am analyzing is again published on Hindu July 13th. The title of the article is Nurturing Citizens in Social Studies. It is written by Hamid Ansari. He is a former Vice President of India. So in COVID pandemic, due to COVID pandemic and the disruption caused by it, Ministry of Human Resource Development has decided to reduce the study load by 30% of courses of social study of class 9 to 12 while retaining core concept. So government has decided to reduce the course of social study from class 9 to 12 by 30% due to the academic year lost due to disruption caused by COVID-19 situation. So this loss of course, how it is going to affect the polity of India, the author has analyzed that thing. So what is the implication by reducing the load by 30%, particularly in the area of social studies? In that, actually author has told about the CBSE's salient feature of senior secondary school curriculum as given by CBSE in its website. So their author tells us that total 9 features are listed, which are nothing but the abridged form of the preamble of Constitution of India. So CBSE has given 9 salient feature of its curriculum for senior secondary classes 11th and 12th. So those 9 features are derived from preamble of Constitution of India, and those salient feature, there is no mention of fundamental duty also, which is very important part for any citizen, because the fundamental duty is what is required for any citizen to understand what it is need to do, what it is expected to do. It is derived from Article 51A of the Constitution. And author also says that the salient features talks about different culture of India and what is expected from a student to have empathy or to have understanding or to have a respect for all those diversity which we find in cultural front in India. But author also point out that in salient feature there is no mention of composite culture. There is a difference between different having empathy for different culture or with respect to composite culture. And author also says that the CBSE says that theme covered in lower classes will not be upgraded as per requirement of higher classes. That means the theme which in social science, the theme which has been covered in lower classes will not be taught in upgraded way for higher classes, because as per their logic, because they are making syllabus short by 30%, so they will skip those themes which they have taught in lower classes. So this also is the area of concern as per author. Author says that it is important to be politically conscious and to make younger generation people politically conscious. A change in voting age was brought in by making voting right applicable from 18 years age onwards. This was done in 61st Amendment in 1988. The reason was that to make younger generation, youth of the country politically conscious. But as we see that once a student pass out from school after 12th, he will be around 17th, probably 17th or 16th years of age, and within 1 year he will be entitled for voting. So the question here is, if social science subject is diluted, then a student who is passing out with this abridged social study, short form of social study, will not be competent enough to take a independent informed decision related to voting, because the course is diluted and sorry, and without instruction on fundamental principle of our polity, a future voter will be not properly informed to take a decision. In that case, the other corrupting influence will work on him, particularly from social media or media, which will influence his voting choice. So that is detrimental to the polity and for our future generation. So what author is suggesting, that good education in social science is needed for good governance, and that only prepare the future generation. So with that, I'll conclude the second analysis of the article. Third article which I'm analyzing is editorial. The title of the editorial is Shore Power. Recently, Prime Minister has inaugurated a 750 megawatt photovoltaic project at Riva, and we know that as per Paris Agreement, goal was set of installing 100 gigawatt of solar power by 2020. Now, India has got the installed capacity of 35 gigawatt, and as per the projection that by 24, with current situation, with the current capacity what India is having, by 2024 we will be able to achieve only 50 gigawatt. So we see that our Paris Agreement, as per Paris Agreement, goal was to have 100 gigawatt, and what we are achieving is 50 gigawatt. So this lack of capacity, this lack of capacity not to achieve this goal has many reasons, because India is having a low domestic cell manufacturing capacity, only 3.1 gigawatt per year capacity we are having for manufacturing the cell, photovoltaic cell. And there are plenty of issues related to quality, quantity, and other associated equipment which is required. And we need to have a to scale up manufacturing capacity also, which is not sufficient to achieve the kind of goal which is required for meeting Paris Agreement. In comparison, if we see the China was having a very insignificant manufacturing capacity in 1990s. But how drastically China has changed over a period, because they identified and acquired top technology globally related to solar voltaic cell and other accessories. They identified technologies and acquired it, and related to manufacturing whatever the critical raw material they imported, and similarly they acquire solar manufacturer companies from abroad also, and they have a huge market, domestic market, so they focused on catering the requirement of domestic market, and now going for export also. So in that line, editorial suggests that India should also treat solar energy sector as a strategic sector on par with defense. And industry should also set up facility here, and avail the low cost financing which government is giving to promote solar energy. And similarly they should invest on intellectual properties, because until unless you be competitive in this area, you cannot survive. So for that reason, industry should focus on emerging trend, innovative use of photovoltaic cell, and its cost, because India is in a right position to take a leadership role in solar energy. So this is the third analysis of the article. With that I conclude. I hope my analysis will help to improve your understanding. Thank you.